if your debt is more than like your actual income that you're bringing in a month, it is bad news. But I come to tell you, I had issues with that too, because your girl, I told y'all, I'm not balling. I'm balling on the budget. Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Tyra, and this is a bougie lifestyle. I provide content like lifestyle, home and decor, DIY projects, and just an insight on me being a young homeowner, some tips and tricks to help you guys live the best bougie lifestyle you can live on a budget, of course. Today's video is super important to me because I received lots of DMs on Instagram when I first posted that I had bought my first home. And so I really wanted to take the time to create this video because so many of you guys reached out with the same questions, honestly, of like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I really want to do this one day, but I'm not really sure where to get started. Can you help me? What realtor did you use? What lender did you use? How does this work? How does that work? So this process is very long and intricate. I didn't want to overwhelm people with my long drawn out responses. Even though I had good information in it, I'd much rather either had a phone call with them or obviously come to you guys on YouTube and explain a little bit more about my home buying process. So this is the beginning of a new series. So today we're going to talk about 8 things I wish I knew before buying a home. Oh my gosh, there's so much I wish I knew. So let's jump right into it. Number 1, I did not realize that your down payment doesn't include your closing costs. So you guys may be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So basically, your down payment is what you're gonna pay of your loan. So for instance, I got a FHA loan that was 3.5% of my purchase price. So I put that down thinking like, okay, that's cool. That is exactly, what it's gonna be. And that was a lump sum of money. Thought that was okay, but in actuality, there's also closing costs attached to you closing as well. So that consists of a whole bunch of things that I won't go into detail about, but just know that you have to have a down payment, which is usually either 3.5%, 5%, or whatever percentage of that actual total price of your loan for your home, and you have to have the closing costs at the end. Luckily, and one tip I recommend, that you talk with your seller that is selling the home that you want and try to work out a deal that they are able to provide seller's credit. So my seller was able to provide me assistance. One, me being a first-time home buyer, me being a young home owner. So I was able to get some seller's credit, a lot of things taken off and factored in. So my price was much lower, but it could have been way worse if I did not know about seller's credit and all these things like that, and also having a great realtor on your side to help you with those things. Tip number 2. So I did not know, guys, that you had to pay for your inspection and your appraisal out of pocket. How insane is that? So when you think about it, you have a down payment, you have your closing costs, so that's already a lump sum. Then you have an appraisal and an inspection that you need to get, because appraisal you have to get, but inspection you don't necessarily have to get, but you want to get that. You want to make sure that you make sure everything in the house is good to go before you sign on that dotted line. And so what I mean by this is it didn't come out of my already loan amount, like within the loan that I was asking for my lender of my house, whatever, some $1,000 or whatever my house was. It did not come out of that. I had to pay money, my own money, out of just my regular bank account to pay for these things. And now, one thing I want to clarify is in an appraisal, you have to go by like the appraisal association, like they match you with an appraisal. It's not like you pick that person out. So you want to be very, cautious, knowing that it's not just a simple, oh, my friend is an appraiser, so I'll get my friend to do it. It's not like that. But an inspection, on the other end, you can choose who's going to do your inspection. And fortunately for me, my realtor had a connection with an inspector that was really great, super awesome man. So I was able to get assistance or use his services as well. And so that definitely came out of pocket. Inspections are varied in price, so it depends who you go to. It wasn't too bad, honestly. Now the appraisals, y'all, It was expensive. And I have a bone to pick because personally, I bought my house, in like during COVID. And this was a time during COVID that people didn't really know what was going on with this COVID business and how this was going to affect a lot of things. And honestly, it took so long. Like, it was supposed to take a certain amount of time, and it was just a delay for my appraisal. And they were delaying me in my process. And I was like, what the heck? And I still paid like $600+ out of pocket. And I was like, I'm paying all of that for this. And then I think they didn't even do like an actual appraisal. Like back in the day, like last year before COVID, they used to like have to come in the house and do all this technical stuff. But because it was COVID, they actually had a different rule that they didn't even have to do that. They had like a computer system that they had pictures from your house or something, that I was told that like they were doing half of the work, but I was still paying full price. So that was very annoying. It was out of my control. It is what it is, but that can definitely add up. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Okay, moving on to number 3. Debt to income ratio. What is that? Oh my gosh, that is what I said because I was caught off guard. But listen, you guys are gonna know what it is because I'm going to tell you. So essentially, you need to be aware of debt to income ratio. This is no joke. This is what may prevent you, honestly, from moving forward in this process. And nobody wants to be left behind because we want our keys, right? Yes. So debt to income ratio is basically, in a very, very, very dumbed down explanation, it is your debt divided by your actual income for that month. So essentially you have your debt that you have to pay, whether that's student loans, because honey, let's talk about them. There's car notes, whatever you have that is a loan and you got to pay back that is contributing to your debt. Maybe you got a little crazy with the credit cards in college and that contributes to your debt. But also maybe, you have a full-time job, you're getting paid decent, but you're still paying off of these loans and this debt that you have. So they're going to factor that in, because if you get paid X amount of dollars and you only have, and you have all this debt to add to it, and you have to pay that debt every month, and you're only left with some chump change, how you going to pay your mortgage? Huh? How are you gonna pay your mortgage? That is exactly what these lenders are wondering. They're like, we're not gonna give you $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, literally, and you cannot pay us back. That's honestly an example for me to put it in like simple terms. Is like, if you have a friend, like everybody has a friend that that they may be going through some financial issues, but they ask you to borrow, a couple $100 or whatnot, right? So though, because that is your friend, like, all right, this friend does have a lot of bills in a month and that is their priority. So even though they told me they're gonna pay me back within the next month, personally, like, they are struggling financially. They have a lot of bills to pay. I'm probably going to be the least priority because I'm that friend, So in reality, you're probably not going to get those couple $100 right away. Now, think about the mortgage lending people or the banks that lend you these mortgages, and this money for your home. They're not going to just bank off the fact like, oh, we're your friend. One, they're not your friend. Okay, this is a business. And 2, they're not going to care that you have other priorities. Now, they're going to nip that in the bud before and be like, okay, well, I see you have student loans. I see you have, a loan for a personal loan. I see you have this. I see you have that. So we're going to assume that we're going to be put on the back burner when it's time for your mortgage. And that means we don't want to lend you that much because we know you're not going to be able to pay monthly or pay us back in time. So you really want to be cautious of that too. But debt to income ratio is super important, because if your debt is more than like your actual income that you're bringing in a month, it is bad news. But I come to tell you, I had issues with that too, because your girl, I told y'all, I'm not balling. I'm balling on the budget. And, I had issues with that, and I had to be told that within my process. And I was like, oh, snap. Okay, let me figure out a way to work this out. And there are ways to quickly resolve some of this stuff. You just have to have a really great lender, guys, and a supportive team, which that's a different video for a different day because I had issues, but we're not gonna talk about that. But you want to have a supportive team that's able to quickly help you out and figure out a game plan to move forward in the process and allow you to get that home at the end of the day. So moving on to number 4. Oh gosh, the things I wish I knew before buying this house, guys. That the process and the commitment to furnish and to make your house a home is a process, y'all. Like I don't know, I don't know if I had unrealistic expectations. Now looking back, I might have. I view myself as like a realist. Like I'm pretty honest with myself and know what reality is versus not reality. But I guess I was so excited and wrapped up in just the excitement of like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. Like I'm about to have a house, y'all. So I got too excited, and this was before I even closed. I'm like trying to plan all these things to be prepared to come in and move into this house so it can be house to home in 2 seconds. So although I commend myself because I got a lot of planning done and I knew exactly what I wanted to do in certain spaces and kind of had furniture in mind and different things in mind, man, when I moved in, I was like, wait, y'all, this is not an apartment. Like, this is not a 1-bedroom, 1 bath, little common area, little kitchen type of place. Like, my house is definitely not big at all, like by any means, but it is big for a person that lives by herself and have multiple rooms, and my style is very particular. I'm invested in this process. I love interior design, home and decor, and all these things. So like I'm pretty invested in that stuff, and I didn't realize that, baby, it's not gonna be a month or two. Like this is a continuous thing. And I know we all remember like our parents always doing stuff with the house, and you're like, dang, you working on another project. Now I feel like my mom. Now I know the struggle, like it evolves and your style changes, so you want to change things. So I wish I just had a bigger grip on the reality that it does take time, and guess what? It's okay. And guess what? It is a part of the process, and it's a beautiful process at that. So embrace the time that you are making your house a home and live in those moments. All right, guys, moving on to number 5, having access to important documents. I cannot stress this enough. This is like one of my biggest advice that I tell my friends who are interested in this process. Even if you are not like trying to jump on a house tomorrow or even next month or even a couple months from now, just knowing that you're going to have to explain your whole life's journey to these people. They are not going to lend you $300,000 and trust that you're just great and they don't have to fact check anything about you. This is like a whole background check. Like how the government does this whole background check when you work for them and you got to go through these it is literally that. And guess what? You cannot finesse this. This is not Finesse University when it comes to the home buying process. Everybody has to go through this. This is not just targeted against your back, or you feel like, oh my goodness, why are you asking me all of these questions? Trust me, I felt that way because I was like, this is too much. But if you know this information ahead of time, if somebody would have told me, girl, Tyra, you better put them documents aside. Put all that stuff aside and know where it is. Know the passwords to the accounts that you need to access. Oh my gosh, I feel like most of my time and most of my stress was really hunting down these documents, making sure I had everything in order. And so I'm here to tell you, you can't say I didn't tell you, I didn't warn you. It don't matter. If you buy a house 5 years from now, just know that Tyra told you to have them documents in mind, knowing that you have to explain a lot of things. So, all of your tax returns, have them in order. Even if you have them digitally on your computer, just have them together and in order. So that way you don't spend time just stressed like, oh my gosh, like I just gave you 10,000 documents. And then when your loan officer come back and be like,
but Miss Chapman, we're missing this document.
And you're like, bruh, what in the world? So I told you, be prepared for those documents. It really does get a lot. The most stressful part about this home buying process a lot of the time is just getting all of those things together. If you can think ahead, it'll be a breeze. Okay, don't quote me on that. But if you can think ahead, you will come off being in a better position than most. So moving on to number 6. Guys, this is huge. so, so, so huge and will save you heartbreak. It will save you time. Oh my gosh, it will save you the stress. I have had so many of people that I knew that may have reached out to me about this process and was like, oh my gosh, I went to go get a realtor. I found this realtor and I'm starting to look at homes and all these things. And I'll ask them like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm so excited. Send me some pictures, send me some links. But then I'm like, wait, you got pre-approved, right? Yeah, crickets. You guys have to get pre-approved before reaching out to like realtors and seeking that. I mean, honestly, it's kind of weird because most realtors nowadays are kind of like, you got that pre-approval though, before they kind of meet up with you, because that is like your ticket in the door. That is for you when you have a pre-approval, and what that means is the lender, whether it's that mortgage company, whether it's that bank or whatever route you go that's lending you that loan for that house, that lender will have your documents to access a quick review of like, okay, you have a job, you have this, you have that. They view these things and they say, okay, we can pre-approve you for X amount of Z amount, right? This is going to be your total loan. So you have to keep that in mind. So let's say my lender approved me for $330,000. That's just hypothetical here. And they pre-approved me for that. So now I can go take this pre-approval to my realtor, and my realtor will then know what type of properties to even search for. Because what do I look like not being pre-approved and literally saying, yeah, I want this in a property, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want a new build, I want this, I want this. And the grand total is spanking $400,000 for this, new that, right? So let's say my realtor goes, without the pre-approval, start looking for these $400,000 houses, and I am in love. I found my dream house. I want it, signed, delivered, let's go. This is my house. Well, baby, since you weren't pre-approved, you can't just hop on to say, I'm putting an offer into this house, or I want to, go further to go under contract with this house. So guess what? Another person that went through those steps and already have that covered, if they wanted to go proceed forward with getting that home and putting an offer in, they could do that. You can't. And another note, remember when I said the house, this dream house of yours was $400,000? Meanwhile, when you actually got pre-approved, it was only for $330,000? You can't even afford that house. They won't give you the loan to get that house. Now you have set yourself up for heartbreak, for disappointment, for frustration, for you feeling overwhelmed, you feeling like this process may not be for you, you feeling like you can't find the right space. So now you've just put yourself in this hole that like you just don't want to go down, guys. You really don't want to psych yourself out before you even gave yourself a chance to explore the beauty of, having your own space and own home, or, succeeding in this process. So please, 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 if you are interested in the home buying process and you're seriously interested now this is for people that is like, I know that I want to buy a house within X amount of time and it's like a shorter time frame. If you're seriously interested, you need to seek a lender or whomever to get you a pre-approval and then go about the steps in the proper way. Now, if you're not serious and maybe you just have a realtor friend that's nice enough to, y'all go around town and looking at stuff just so you can see, if you want to choose that route, then that's okay. But you don't want to go for a pre-approval when you're actually really not serious, because that is a hard pull on your credit, and you don't want many hard pulls on your credit, guys. So you want to do one-time shop. I think they give you about 90 days or so to use that pre-approval. So it's a good amount of time. It's not like a rush thing. You got to hurry up and use it within that week, or, within those couple weeks. So just keep that in mind, because that is very, very, very important. And it not only affects your own mental health for not, putting yourself in this negative mindset of like, this is not for me, but it also helps, with your credit and not, having all these hard pulls or just not knowing what to do and how to navigate that. So speaking of credit, number 7 is, guys, you need to have good credit. And I know good credit sometimes is a little subjective. Not really, I guess, but I'm not saying to have like, you gotta be top notch, you gotta have it all, because granted, I'm a young homeowner. I bought my first house at 23. Now, if y'all do the math, I'm not from a wealthy family. Listen, okay, it's a struggle out here, but if I did it, you can do it too. And I didn't know about a lot of things, but I do have background in knowing that I needed to build my credit going into college. And my mother really did an impeccable job with helping me out with, credit cards and just and helping me in that process to build it up. So the credit part was, it was good for me, but I'm just saying it in a sense, like, don't let someone tell you you have to have this outrageous credit score to even think about buying a house. That's not true. Like, you can buy a home and just have a pretty good credit score. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the better your credit score, the more access you will have in this process. So what does that mean? That means that if you just have, a okay credit score and you're just getting by, you're just getting to that point that they're like, okay, fine, we'll take that credit score. Yeah, you may get a house, but you may not get offered the same amount for your loan. One, so that could be a negative effect depending on the person. Two, when it comes to interest rates, that's very important, because if you were to wait a little bit longer to bump that credit score a little bit more up, you might be in a safety zone of getting an interest rate that is way lower than now having to get an interest rate that's a little too high because your credit score was too low. And they look at it as in like, okay, well, if their credit score is not, where it needs to be, then why would we give them more access? So, and it really is that simple. So my urge is don't have in your mindset like, oh my God, I have to have a 8, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like, don't keep that in your mind. But at the same time, just know that the better your credit score, the more access you will have in this process. And last but not least, number 8. That's not. And last but not least, number 8.
2 hours later.
Number 8. Guys, one thing I really wish I knew before I purchased my first home is that you have to have reserves. This is something that I just feel like no one really talks about now. You might have heard a lot about credit scores. You might even heard about debt to income ratio, understanding that with your utilization rate of credit cards and all these things like that. Now, those things are a little bit more, common to talk about. However, y'all, reserves, what's that? What's that? I did not even understand. I never even heard anyone say that. And honestly, quite honestly, I didn't hear about this until later on in my process. But basically that means not only do you have to have your down payment, which is your 3.5% or your 5% or whatever percentage that you have to put down within your loan and all of that jazz, right? Not only do you have to have that and your closing costs like we talked about, with everything at the end that you got to throw in and pay for and all of that stuff, your inspection, your appraisal, and all the stuff that goes in the process. Guys, you also have to have reserves. And reserves is them showing that after you put all of that money in, all of that chunk of, oh, Jesus, it's a lot of money. All of that money in, right? They want to know that, like, well, sis, well, sir, can you actually afford, the next couple months of paying your mortgage? Like, did you try to finesse and use all your money? Like, let's see, if you got some reserves left over. So basically that's what it is. Now, it doesn't matter if, you're paying for your down payment, all that stuff in one account, and maybe in one of your savings accounts at a credit union or something have some reserves left. It doesn't matter, because guess what? You can't hide nothing from these people. They gonna know. They gonna find you. They're really going to know, all of your accounts. They're gonna know these things. It's very necessary for the underwriting process at the end to get your closing together and get those keys. So can't hide anything. But if you do have those reserves anywhere else or whatnot, it's totally fine. But they just want to know that, like, hey, you can, you're not going to be smack broke after this process, and you'll be able to have, some money based off of your mortgage. So say your mortgage is $2,100, right? And if your mortgage is $2,100, they sometimes will ask, depending on your lender, depending on your situation, let's make that very clear. Depending on your lender and your situation personally with your finances, they may ask you for a couple months worth of reserves as the amount of your mortgage. So that would be 21 times, let's say they ask for 3 months. 21 times 3 months, that is the total of what you need to have put aside for your like reserves. And you don't have to have this money to like spend. They're not gonna ask you for the money, they just want to see it. That's it. They just want to see it. So honestly, I'm gonna be real with y'all. After all this situation, I was like, oh my God, this is so much money, like reserves. What's that? Why did y'all tell me this? What is going on? So really, I was just like, oh, mom or whomever, like, is it okay if, you kind of help me out with the reserves just to put it in my account? And soon as it's like done or whatever, I'll just transfer it back to you. That's really okay to do. They just need to see it's there, but don't do that in like 2 seconds, because you don't want that to get all technical and they're like, oh, we can see that someone gave it to you, so now you got to write it off as a gift or whatever. So just think about that ahead of your process, so you can have just that money sitting there. Now don't spend your mama money. Don't spend your mama money, okay? But just have it aside sitting there. And I really wish I knew that before time, because I wouldn't feel as scatterbrained trying to pick up pieces and figure that stuff out. So that is for you to take in consideration. Thank you guys so much. I really hope you enjoyed these 8 things I wish I knew before buying my house. And look forward to more in this home buying series, because there's so much information that I want to tell you guys, but I don't want to limit it to just one video. Like, it's just so much, and I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed, because oftentimes this process is very overwhelmed. And I'm here to say, like, I'm here for you. And if you have any questions at all, big, small, whatever, please reach out. Leave it in the comments below. Guys, I read the comments. I will reply back. Make sure you guys like this video if you want to learn more about the home buying process, the tips and tricks, ins and outs, everything explained, very raw, real, and transparent, because that is my middle name. I do not want to lie to y'all, because it is real out here, okay? Don't forget, if you like more of my content, definitely hit that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. Turn on that bell notification to get notifications of when I post. This is gonna be an exciting series, because I cannot wait till you guys tell me, hey, I'm actually about to buy a house now, because this information makes a lot more sense and I don't feel as overwhelmed. I live for those times. And make sure you share this video with any of your friends that are thinking about buying a home, and let them know that I am here for them as well. See you next time. Bye.